I'm going to keep this really short. Patrick Omeara from the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance. The Sustainable Hospitality Alliance is a global collaboration of hospitality brands, large and small, working together to create on sustainability. And more recently, we have been joined by all those businesses who support the hospitality brands to thrive. The investors, the owners, the operators, the pension funds, architects, engineers, all working on sustainability. What are we for? We exist to inspire, to challenge, to enable, to support the hospitality industry to become truly regenerative. What truly regenerative means is that it gives back more to people and to planet than it takes out. Now that is a lofty, awesome and very difficult ambition, but we thought while we were at this and setting a goal, we should set an awesome goal, that the industry should be truly regenerative, truly net positive, that it gives back more to the planet and its people, more than it takes out. How do we do it? Very simple idea to understand, difficult to execute. First is to convene, to bring people together. One of the huge bottlenecks, one of the huge issues with sustainability, of course, is right now, is the diffuse nature of the conversations that are happening. There are 1,000 conversations happening today in the hospitality industry about sustainability in 1,000 different rooms. By convening people into one place, people can listen to one another and learn from one another and co-create. So the first step is to convene. The second is to ask those people to collaborate. And very often we get people who are competing in the marketplace working together. And this is a really, really important point because of its complexity and the range of issues that the industry has to face. Nobody can do it alone. So to get people to collaborate and to contribute. On one issue, you're an expert. On another issue, you're a learner. So for people to come together and contribute what they know, and even to be able to say, the things I do not know are. And for lots of the industry, it is even knowing where to start and how to tackle the very basic issues that are the real issue. Now, if you're in that position, somebody somewhere in the industry has the answer to help you. So that's a really important part to collaborate. The third, we keep it really practical. We're not a talking shop. We are in the business of providing tools, enablers and supports to the industry to make them available for free to the wider industry to help. For example, just a few examples. We have a hotels carbon measurement initiative. 40,000 hotels unit. 40,000 is not bad, but it's a drop in the ocean. We have a HWMI, a water measurement initiative, used by about 30,000 hotels. This year we launched a pathway to net positive hospitality. What it really is a suite of tools for the industry, wherever you are in terms of your maturity, to get you from A to B to C. I think of it as a big snap-on box. If you know what a snap-on box is, it's a big toolbox in your garage. And we're busily filling that with the tools that the industry needs, co-created by the industry, to help them to make progress. I'm not going to bother too much with slides, but I'm going to show you, because we want to speed it up a little bit, I want to move, is this the thing to move it forward? This one? I'm going right through to a very short film. This one. Which, when we started the, have we got volume? When we launched the pathway, sorry, do we have volume on this? These are the CEOs of the large hospitality businesses talking about why this is important. It's a very short clip. No volume? There we go. It's 2 minutes.
It's all a matter.
Positive impact hospitality has on our communities and environments globally is unmistakable. But we know we have to do more. That is why we as an industry have united to launch the pathway to net positive hospitality.
It's all a matter of shifting 360 degrees your way of acting and talking, which is move away from compensation to contribution. Make sure you contribute to those what it matters the most, which is your employees, your guests, the local community, the local suppliers. Reduce your energy consumption, preserve the oceans.
No one company can shape the future of responsible travel alone. It requires teamwork and a real collective effort across the industry to achieve a common goal.
Unified, we have the strength to help safeguard the environment, giving back more than we take within our local communities and on a global scale. We know we can't protect our planet alone. We need all hotels, owners, investors, suppliers, and our own associates to advance on their sustainability journeys as well.
The pathway will help create tangible change locally and internationally at scale, supporting every hotel globally, no matter their starting point.
The reality is, the Earth can't wait, and our vibrant industry has the ability and responsibility to act with urgency to bring to life our collective vision for net positive hospitality.
I'm inviting all the hotels around the world to join the movement for a sustainable hotel industry.
We can really make that so needed impact to stop where the world is going, reverse whatever we can still reverse, and really ensure that we make sure that people, the environment, the globe, and everything else is sustained for very many years in the future.
Messages there are very, very clear. There is urgency. There is complexity. There is little time, but there is hope. If people work together and collaborate from right across the industry. They are the key messages. And everybody has a role. If you have one hotel, if you have 4, if you have 7,000, doesn't matter. Everybody has a role to play and everybody must contribute. That is the key message. Done. Thank you.
Excellent. What a better. Please sit down, Patrick. Then Srdjan, Agapi, would you please join us? After this excellent film, it sets the tone and it opens the discussion actually straight away. A better introduction we couldn't have had. If you sit there, now sure. Probably I can sit here. And I want to be able to see you as well when I talk to you. Yeah. So on stage we have Srdjan Milekovic. You're in charge of operations for a large part of the Hyatt region here in this part of Europe. Agapi, you have in Crete you run several beautiful hotels and resorts. And Patrick, it needs no further introduction after this film. It's great to have a global operator representative and a local operator representative and someone who is trying to unite basically the hospitality industry on a global scale, because sustainability is something that I've got to sit like this, otherwise you can't see me here or there. So it's not very, very kind to reduce that. So it is important that we have this unity. It's a global problem, challenge. It doesn't matter how you basically say what it is, but the climate changes and climate objectives. I've got a presentation here in front of me that we've with Colliers we did for a large corporate, a large investor, reducing climate change. There's 6 things in here: reducing climate change, adapting to climate change is something also that we need to take into account. Over the last few days, we've seen here many panel discussions as well, where it was said maybe Greece becomes no longer a summer destination for July and August, but maybe it will become a period where you go from March, April, May, and September, October, November. So the shoulder periods, and maybe up north will become more resort-like destinations because it's going really fast. So adapting to climate change is something. Sustainable use of water and the protection of resources is another topic. Transition to circular economy, wasting avoidance and recycling. Pollution prevention and protection of healthy ecosystems. It all came very clearly out of the little film that you showed, Patrick, and it's a great film it is. So to further get into a discussion, let's keep it simple. What are the main themes hotel operations over the past few years have been dealing with? What have we seen? What have we done? The major themes that we can identify. Srdjan, start with you.
Sure. I think you will see this across the industry. We as a company started first time in 2008 with some sort of cohesive environmental policy. Last year, we relooked into this platform, calling it World of Care, and really summarizing what we have been doing in the past years. For us, this World of Care has three aspects. One of them is about environment, and there are 4 focus areas, pretty much covering what you were talking about. Yeah. One of them is climate change and water conservation. The second one is reduction of waste. The third one is responsible sourcing. So you really want to go deeper into your supply chain. And the fourth one is about thriving destinations, really making sure that we, as it was said in this movie, give back to our community than what we are taking up. I would say we as an industry and we as a company are looking into 3 sort of decisions and actions. One has to do with CapEx. Yep. And there was a conversation about it just before. And it also goes into design standards and things like that. The second one is what I would call simple decisions. These simple decisions sometimes require a little bit of organizational effort to implement them. And I'm talking about things like, we were talking earlier about large bottle amenities, no use of plastic straws, no use of styrofoam, stopping to use plastic stirrers and things like this. Mm-hmm. These things, I would still say, are relatively simple. Some of them are bold decisions, but it can be done. And the third and the biggest challenge for us, I think, at this moment is really the engagement and people being aware. Yeah. From our colleagues to customers. It is great what our colleague from Hilton was talking about, and we see the same trend, but I think if this is the path where we need to go, we're still somewhere here. If you saw a 14-year-old child being employed here, yeah, everybody would react and say, this is absolutely unacceptable. Yeah. But if you see something keeping an open window on a cooled or heated room, nobody says anything. Yeah. Although the consequences can be maybe not as equally grave for the individual, but for the planet. So I think this is really what we have seen in the past years. Yeah.
So, Agapi, going to you. You are owner-operator. You own your hotels, you operate your hotels, so you have a complete control on the entire chain. What trends have you seen?
I don't think, is this working?
It is working. We can hear you loud and clear.
We've certainly seen, I think, first of all, that the industry has evolved tremendously. And I think from the simple little things that we were doing back in the 90s, we've seen tremendous change both in big operators and small operators. I think, apart from that, to answer this last question, I think what we're experiencing is a huge shift in the global travelers' interest. And I think we're moving away and redefining luxury. And I'd like to point this out because I think it is very, very evident to a lot of us that a lot of people are moving away from mindless, pure pleasure to a luxury that, if I can use the term, conscious luxury or traveling with a purpose that we've heard before. And we shouldn't fall into the trap of distinguishing the two and thinking that one cannot be combined with the other.
Yeah.
This is something we are seeing from our guests. Obviously, there are variations between the age groups and different nationalities, but it is definitely something that we need to attune to. And to that end, as a company, we have made a very, very conscious decision to redefine who we are and put sustainability and consciousness, as we call it, as one of the three fundamental things that are part of our DNA. And it is, we say to our teams, the absolute layer through everyday decisions, small or big, have to go through. Otherwise, it cannot be done.
Yeah. So you are, I mean, you're hands-on in your management.
Yes.
And when you go to the big companies like Hyatt, Marriott, Hilton, and all of them, they have usually owner and operator experiences where there's to be alignment, obviously, but there's not an, you, the interest is all in one part. So going to Patrick, if you look at that overall view, you can look at it with the 40,000 participants, 40,000 hotels in there. You could actually, so I'll let it up to you, you could consolidate all these best practices that from Agapi, from Hyatt, from other independents, but also from all the big hotel chains. You could consolidate those best practices. From your point of view, what are the three major changes you have seen in the last 5, 6, 7 years?
Yes, I think certainly this is now front and center, number one. I think ESG is in everybody's mind. I don't think it's fully understood about what it's meant. I think the environmental piece is big. I think the social piece has a long way to go, along with a lot on the governance. So I think huge strides made on environmental, still some way to go on social and on governance, I would think. So a lot is being developed, and part of our role is to take what some people know and share it with everybody. Mm-hmm. And that's a really, really important point. Second thing, I think, is to keep in mind that sometimes very simple solutions can be very effective. Start with what you can do. The other things we see, though, however, is a much increased focus on regulation.
Yeah.
This is now becoming, and I think this is a real threat. There was a very good discussion here for people who were here yesterday evening about the aviation.
You said it's a real threat?
I think it's a threat in the sense that the industry has an opportunity, which is time limited, to set its standards, to raise the bar for itself, to make real progress, and if it doesn't do it, somebody else is going to do it to you.
Yeah, but
there was a conversation here last night about the aviation industry and the challenges, with lots of new regulations being imposed. And I think that certainly now is in the air in a way that it wasn't a couple of years ago. The whole regulation issue, I think, is a very significant one.
Whilst I don't want to get too deep into taxonomy and SFDR things, because that's, as we said earlier, this is about green, and it's about our environment. So the social and governance issues are equally important, but for this discussion, the regulations on sustainability goals, like in the taxonomy, we talk about a gray, a light green, and a green. So these kind of labelings, do they apply for hotels as well?
I think they apply, but I think it's more complex. One of the challenges is that there is no one taxonomy. There is no one set of rules. There is no one set of guidance. It is enormously complex.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big issues. It depends on your ownership structure. It depends on your location. It depends on the regulations that apply, not just, for example, across the EU, but in the particular country where you operate within the EU. So I think that's a huge complexity. So I think, I think the opportunity is to try to collaborate to get ahead of those actually, before they're imposed on, before you don't have a choice.
Yeah. So, Srdjan, back to you. And on that topic is the topic of collaboration. What is your take on what would you, as Hyatt, as representative of Hyatt, what would you expect from the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance to do for you?
Well, I think this is a big part of our efforts. Our efforts start by setting the goals.
Yeah.
And now I think everybody's going into science-based goals to really have some meaningful foundation. And then obviously, we work on two parts. One is ensuring that these goals are translated into things that we can implement in different regions, hotels, particular departments even. And the second thing is, I would say, broad level of collaboration across the industry with Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, but many others. We've been working with the WWF and maritime different organizations to really ensure that you get some sort of understanding, some sort of common dictionary, if you will, but also different certifications. So we would expect them to help us have the issue brought up to the world, if you will, and have not just best practices shared, but also sharing the common goals and common objectives, and be able to measure our progress, which I think is a big achievement in the past couple of years, because some years ago it was really up to everybody to set how they see.
That's how it always starts, doesn't it?
Exactly.
So that's why best practice, and we can share those. Then. So on that topic, there's the question in between for all of you, whoever starts first. What is the most innovative thing you've seen in terms of becoming more green and more responsible, more environmentally aware, that you've seen lately where you say, hey, that's interesting? Chloe? Or sorry, Agapi.
I'll use an example from our own company, and it's on the softer side, but I think it might be interesting to our audience. Taking into account that we employ 95% local people, and that our operation is seasonal, and that a lot of them own a piece of land, we created an innovative, I say, program called the Phāea Farmers, whereby those that join, we bring them together with agronomists. We teach them how to grow things organically. And then, of course, we help them get the certification, and then we absorb that produce together with whatever we are producing in our own organic gardens to be consumed by our guests. With this idea, obviously, we give access to fresher produce for our guests. Okay, that's obvious. We supplement the income of our employees. We create a greater bond with the brand. But I think we're also addressing a much bigger issue, which is restoring really the connection with the land, because people are moving away from agriculture, and that's a global issue with significant implications for local economies like ours here in Greece. So with a small idea that addresses many issues, you can actually address the bigger agenda, and you should never feel intimidated. Maybe you need the help of experts to identify priorities. But maybe with your small idea, you can make a little bit of difference.
Yeah. Cool. Interesting. Srdjan, most innovative, what have you seen?
I could give you many examples of different hotels. But if I have to say only one, then it will be something that I think we will need to work on in the future. It's on the line of what you were saying, and that is delivering a luxury brand in a way that really says that abundance doesn't have to mean waste. And the most innovative thing for us will be educating our customers and our colleagues to find this right balance. We are working currently on 2 projects in Saudi Arabia, Red Sea. This is extremely highly anticipated and very green project, going for a platinum LEED and everything else. And one of our hotels is Miraval. It's a retreat. It's very similar to many hotels here. It goes 100% along this expectation. But the other one is a Grand Hyatt, and it's all about abundance and luxury. And simple things like how you deliver a buffet, especially in the Middle East. They like big buffets, which means a lot of waste. And I think we will need to go through a very serious session of educating our team and our customers to say, in this case, luxury will not mean waste, and abundance will be measured in a different way.
Well, I totally agree. We had the discussion that you referred to earlier at the table outside. It's indeed that case. If you look at the wonderful breakfast we're having here, with a lot of waiters running around. There's a hotel I stayed in Copenhagen not so long ago, where there were no waiters, but there were only chefs. There was the one chef, and they had 5 assistants, and they came to the table and they said, "What would you like to eat? Would you like some eggs? Would you like some yogurt? Would you like we'll make it for you." They go back and they make it within a few minutes, and you get a personalized breakfast in front of you. No waste. So this was and for me that was a luxury experience because I had personal attention.
100%.
It wasn't a waiter taking away my plates, and meanwhile I would walk around the lavish buffet. And at home I don't have a buffet either. But when I get somebody to serve me a personalized breakfast, it works on both sides.
We don't have the time for
it's
that.
so simple.
It brings the issue of an unsustainable labor cost for 750 breakfasts, but it raises a very important subject, and that is how do you find this right balance where, as I said, really abundance doesn't have to mean waste.
No. Patrick, what is the most innovative thing you've seen in terms of green?
Certainly, I think the role that technology is playing now in how businesses understand their impact. You know, technology is playing a huge role in we heard from Hyatt, we heard from Hilton earlier, about the detailed measurements that they take on carbon, on water, on energy use, real-time, state-of-the-art measurement, and I think that's been one of the huge transformations. Yeah. That it is the data now is readily available, and what you measure, of course, you manage. What you can't measure, you can't. You've no idea what your state of health is, whether you're a 4 or 6 or an 8 or a 9 or a 10. So I think for me, that's one of the really big ones. But I love the idea that sustainability, of course, is not about austerity. It's about finding a new way to provide the things that we love and we cherish and we value and that we need.
Yeah.
So and that's a really, really important point, particularly for your brands. Yeah. Absolutely.
For sure. So I saw in the last 2 days here a lot of topics where we touched on ESG and the changing consumer, the diaper generation that Harold Koenders opened up with in Japan, changing demographics, changing demands in hotels. So also there's an evolution taking place on how we deliver our services in the hospitality industry. So that knife cuts both ways. So we now have a consumer that demands certain sustainable efforts. So we adhere to it and make sure that we use that to evolve the industry. But at the same time, and this is a question, yay or nay, can we as a hotel industry, as hotel owners, operators, also force clients to change? Is that an effect that we can also impose? Because we're a service-driven industry. Chloe, I say Chloe all the time. And that's because yesterday I had a panel where Chloe was in. So
it's
Agapi,
okay. It's okay.
Sorry.
I think people are increasingly interested. I would steer away from the notion of forcing anyone to do anything. And definitely as an operator of resorts, people are having a vacation and fantastic time. So definitely not forcing. But just to go back, I think people are increasingly interested and we have to make it easy for them. From the obvious thing of installing those recycle bins, making the double bins in the rooms, to having authentic, meaningful experiences that go beyond that and are green experiences. Like, for example, we have wonderful pop-up dinners in our organic gardens, or we have our Plant B project and we do the harvest. These are things that are very, very interesting to guests. Yeah. The point, I think, is not to be didactic. The point is not to make people feel guilty for their actions, but try to make them to engage.
Yeah.
I think that is the point. By creating experiences that are relevant to them, that somehow showcases some of the things you do. You don't need to tell them what you're doing with your energy. You don't need to tell them what you do with landscape management or with soil health or waste management. This is not relevant. No. These are things you're doing because you have a certain vision.
Of course.
But with experiences, yes, you can. For example, at Blue Palace, we don't have a mega yacht, nor we have a speedboat to go people across to the island of Spinalonga. We have 2 beautiful kayaks. These are wooden boats that are restored. They're old because you can't have people make them today. They're we're losing that trade, unfortunately. People go in a very slow mode. The point is not to go somewhere, but to enjoy a beautiful lunch and enjoy that slow pace of life. So yes, by all means,
I think we all agree on that. Srdjan, anything to add?
Very briefly, I would say, to answer your direct question, no, we cannot force anybody into anything, but what we can do is hold ourselves to higher standards.
Yeah.
And through that, have an impact on our customers and, as you rightfully say, engage so that they will understand and like what we do. But we have to continue striving to provide comfort for our customers. That's the business in which we are.
Cool. So we're talking about hotels, operators, owners, customers. How about the middleman? How about the OTAs? Can the OTAs play a role in this process towards more awareness and a changing behavior, Patrick?
I think they're already playing a very significant role, actually, because
they do.
Already playing a very powerful role. And I think they're the ones very often having conversations about these with the customer, actually, and sensitizing the customers to the issues. And they're working really, really hard to make this happen, actually.
Are they aligned, these OTAs, Srdjan, with hotel companies like yours?
Sure. OTAs play an important role putting us together with our customers. So they are customers' voice with us and our voice with the customers. So in a way, I don't think they will be able, they cannot afford to stay out of this. And this is why, as people whose job and bread and butter is in marketing, they're jumping on the forefront of this.
Should they then not, Patrick, play an even more important role, since they have a direct contact with customers? And
I think
are they not a consolidator also, or a catalyst for basically to make choice?
I think they certainly are a catalyst. I think there's much more that they can do. I think they see that themselves. So there's some, even though they themselves are competitors, there's some collaboration happening across the OTA space as well. And I think that there is a huge opportunity for collaboration between the hospitality brands and the OTAs on this. And I think that's yet to be explored by and large. Yeah. But I think there's yes.
Cool. So how about employees? What role do your employees play in this whole process? Agapi?
Huge.
Tell me.
I don't think there is anyone in this room who would think that a top-down decision, a vision that you sit down and write and put up in your website could be implemented without the involvement of your employees. I feel we all understand that any decision can be jeopardized in the eyes of our guests by our frontline teams. And it's not an easy process. It's very much part of the whole effort, but it really pays off, because I think the point is for everyone to understand that their everyday small or big decisions have to always go through that layer of sustainability, consciousness, or however you want to call it. But it's the only way.
Good. So here we may have a bit of a difference between companies like Hyatt and yourselves, because you're captured, because your ownership and your operational in one hand. With Hyatt, that's different. You're quite a bit larger as well. From an educational point of view, is that an issue? And do you agree with Agapi, Srdjan?
I could not agree more. I think this is the biggest task we have, right? Because as a company, we set our goals, then we distribute them to different regions and hotels, and then we really work with hotels on 6 areas. The first one is awareness and education. The second one is really measurement, and then the 4 areas I mentioned: climate, waste, responsible sourcing, and thriving destinations. But the real goal here is going beyond compliance, because we as a big company, all of us have certain culture of compliance. We set the brand standards, hotels and employees are there to implement them and to satisfy them. This will not be enough. The true engagement and awareness has to ensure that we can really go far beyond this compliance, where, to stay with the example of delivering a luxury brand that goes beyond waste into more greener abundance, so to say, this really requires very well educated, committed colleagues who understand where we are coming from and that can then engage with the customer in the right way.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way. So
I'm just looking at the direction. How much time have we got left? This is, time's up. Has been saying that
about
15
minus
minutes.
15 minutes.
Nobody's here. So look, we're going to go for the last question. SFDR, Sustainable Financial Disclosure Regulation, taxonomy, is a fact. It's been introduced since the 1st of January of this year. So basically, all companies, it basically applies to more to owners than to operators. But anybody who's got a balance sheet total of more than 20 million or a turnover of over 40 million and 250 people of staff, if you apply to that, you have to disclose. The regulations to do that are extremely complicated. So I would assume that it would be hell for all big companies to deal with that. Patrick, for the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, is that a main focus point to be able to help its members?
Yes, it's becoming much, much more important now. And in retrospect, even though it's now in place, I think companies are coming to realize just the level of complexity involved in this. And it's a huge burden right now. And I think it's taking a long time for people to get to understand what is required. But you will be audited on this. This is an auditable report. So a hugely important piece, and certainly very important and increasingly important for us. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Last one for all of us. So from the whole process of becoming carbon neutral or optimal sustainable, how far are we in the process? Are we 10%, 20%, 50%? Where are we? Srdjan?
Personally, I would say 20. I think we are at the beginning of the journey still.
I think so too. Agapi?
I think this is very tough to tell, and I think it's an ongoing process. And once you've reached your goals, you always have to set a higher bar. So I would very much steer away from giving you a percentage.
Okay, that's an intelligent way of approaching it. Patrick, can you go against that?
I don't think there's an end point in this. This is life from now on. But I think we're at an early stage. I like the 20% number. It's intuitively where I land. But I don't think there's an end point.
Yeah.
This will not.
How do you measure?
There's no 100%.
So, but I think
when Earth is starting to when the ice starts stops melting, perhaps that would be
the mathematical expression. I think is called tangent, right? You're getting closer, but you're never getting there.
Never going to reach it. That's exactly right. But I think it's early stage. I think it's early stage. It's good.
Yeah.
So there's always the last one when you turn to the audience and ask if there's any questions. Are there any questions for the panel that you would like to have enlightened or have their vision on? In that case, I think this is the end. It was the last session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agapi, Srdjan, thank you.